The Alice Stewart Show is on the air and on your radio right now. Here's more from Alice on 96.5 The Voice.
Welcome back to the Alice Stewart Show, 6:48 here in Central Arkansas. And while there's a lot of conversation going on in Washington, D.C. concerning funding the federal government, we're in the third week of the partial government slim down. We're about to bump our heads on the debt ceiling, and we are being threatened to have our credit downgraded. Let's hope a decision on all of these matters is reached soon. But we have a similar back and forth on financial matters here in the state of Arkansas, and this deals with the teacher insurance. And legislators are busy trying to hammer out a teacher insurance fix. But as it stands right now, late yesterday, Governor Beebe says they are a few votes shy of a consensus on a plan to avoid a major increase in health insurance rates for teachers. And as it stood yesterday, a special session is not going to be called. And here to talk more about that, I'm joined with State Representative Bruce Westerman. Representative, good morning.
Good morning, Alice.
And the key to this is the Governor Beebe is the one that would be in a position to call a special session, and the votes just aren't there to in terms of a proposal or an idea to fix this teacher insurance problem.
Well, you're exactly right. The governor, and only the governor, can call a special session, and I'm actually shocked that he didn't call the special session. The legislature can really only vote when we're in session. I know people are trying to count noses and find out who's on board, but the legislation is still in a bit of a state of flux. So to get somebody to commit solid to voting for something before a session's even been called, that's a little bit strange. But again, if the governor, only he can call the session. He's got the power to do that. And this is an issue that needs to be taken care of and addressed, whether we do it now or do it in a special session. It eventually is going to have to be taken care of, even if it's delayed until the 2015 session. And the sooner you start on it, the sooner you can take care of it.
Right, and it looks as though one of the chamber had enough votes and the other didn't, and so he said, "Well, we're not going to get together until we have consensus in both chambers." And here's what we're talking about. Is the teacher insurance rates are set to increase by roughly 50% by January 1st if some decision on how to fund this is not met. And there is a comprehensive proposal on the table that would use $43 million from the state surplus to help fund this and avoid this major increase. And another $36 million a year would hold down future increases. Where does that stand, that proposal? What's the breakdown in that in terms of House and Senate members?
Well, there would still need to be a lot of debate on the actual proposal. I think the sticking point with the special session lies with the governor and his desire to push a bill to take URT money, the uniform rate of tax, it's actually your local property tax money, out of local school districts and redistribute that wealth across the state. And it stems back to a lawsuit that the governor was involved with, that the Department of Ed actually lost in the Supreme Court that said the state can't take local property tax money. And even if you go back in the history of Arkansas, Amendment 47 to the Constitution says that the state cannot levy an ad valorem tax on property. It's pretty plain that the founders of our state and all this time, people have not tried to take property taxes and redistribute those across the state. Their local taxes have remained local. And the governor is just adamant about getting that property tax money. And I'm worried that it sets a new precedent that the state can come in and take property taxes from local school districts and use them as they see fit. And I believe that would cause school districts problems down the road if they needed to build a new building or have any kind of a ballot question. The opponents to that are going to be able to say, why should we pass a ballot measure in our local community when the state legislature can come in and a whim and take that away and give it to someone else? I think it's setting a really bad precedent, and it all stems back to, I believe, the governor being upset that he lost in the Supreme Court case.
Well, and the question is a concern over this URT, the Uniform Rate of Tax. What's the need to tap into those funds if there is $43 million in state surplus funds available? What is the need for dipping into URT?
There is no need, and all along when the group that's been working on this solution to the teacher insurance There has been other streams of funding if there needs to be some kind of short-term funding. Even the plan that was proposed mentioned nothing about the URT, but it was taking money from a facility funding plan that's already being phased out, that's planned to be phased out by 2016. Well, now the governor's saying we need this URT money to replace the money that's being phased out in the facilities plan, which the facilities plan on the schedule it was established in 2006 won't even be there in 2016. So what's he going to do with that money afterwards?
Right.
And it's also the money would go into the funding formula, and the funding formula says districts get a set amount of money per student per year. So in essence, all this URT tax grab would do would be to offset general revenue, and it would put local property tax money into the general revenue fund. So there's a very principled reason why people are behind that, and it has nothing to do with funding teacher insurance.
And that would, going that route, who would that be harmful to? The smaller districts? Who would be the most hurt?
There are 8 districts across the state that are in this situation right now. And what people need to realize is those 8 districts are 100% totally funded by local property taxes. None of their sales tax or income tax that goes into general revenue ends up going back to fund those 8 districts. They're totally self-funded by local taxes. Well, now the governor's saying they've got too much money. We're not only taking their sales tax and income tax that goes into general revenue and giving it to all the other districts, we're going to go in and get their local property taxes and redistribute those. It's a blatant redistribution of wealth. It's Robin Hood, as much Robin Hood as Robin Hood can get.
Yes, robbing Peter to pay Paul. But the concern here is more than anything for the teachers and making sure, of course, that no one wants a 50% increase in their insurance, but if the state is responsible for teachers' salary and certainly this situation, a decision needs to be made, and it shouldn't be after the fact. I feel like this has been a conversation that should have been discussed during the legislative session, and I asked Senator Rayford about this as well. But in your view, why are we having this conversation now and trying to call a special session as opposed to back when you were in session?
Well, I believe that the EBD, the Employee Benefits Division, and the board there didn't do their job in pointing out there was an issue of bringing that forward, and now that just came out a few months ago, so the legislature's stuck with dealing with it. This isn't a problem that just happened overnight. It's been going on for quite some time. So now we have the problem, and now we need to address the problem and fix it. And the teacher insurance issue is not an insurmountable problem. I think the people who have worked on a plan to fix that have got a way to fix it, but the governor's clouding the whole issue with this URT.
Well, that is certainly a complicated issue, and hopefully that a decision is made soon. I know a lot of behind-the-scenes work is going on, so I appreciate your time, State Representative Bruce Westerman, and House Majority Leader, and also candidate for Congress there in the 4th District. Representative, thank you.
Thank you, Alice. Have a good day.
All right, same with you. We will take a break, and we'll be back with more right here on the Alice Stewart Show.